If you've been following me on LinkedIn or our company, Clear B2B, then you probably have come across this concept of sales-led growth versus marketing-led growth. Now, let me tell you the bitter truth behind those concepts, okay? So just as a quick recap, we refer to sales-led growth as the act or the mindset or the GTM mindset where you have sales driving primarily transaction-based outreaches and this type of stuff dominating your go-to-market strategy. So companies which are sales-led have huge sales teams, have relatively tiny marketing teams, and sales is just driving with transactional stuff most of the things. So you would have SDRs, BDRs doing a lot of cold calls and just outreach, getting people on demos or discovery calls, as opposed to marketing-led growth, where what you have is primarily marketing stuff, building goodwill, building authority, building brand through these things, and driving with value. Now, the thing is that obviously this is not a binary thing, so it's not an either-or thing where you're either sales-led or you're marketing-led. You know, most companies have both sales and marketing, get their right to do so, and both departments have their place. But the primary distinction between the two is that companies who are quote-unquote marketing-led actually lead with values. So the mindset behind their go-to-market strategy is that we need to be showing and delivering substantial value for our audience. Okay, so that's the working mechanism of the entire thing. Whereas with sales-led, you don't have that. It's that the sales-led mentality is that this is a numbers game, and if we can only, do a decent job of account selection, then it's just a matter of putting in the hours and putting in the dials, because sooner or later you're going to get the numbers. So it's a completely different thing. It's not to say that marketing-led companies don't have sales departments or don't do cold outreach. They do, because that kind of stuff has its place in most companies' outbound efforts. So we are by no means saying that this is bad or that it ruins brand. It ruins brand if your brand doesn't have the value-driven component, like substantial value-driving and value-giving element, then it's not going to do any favors for your brand. But as long as you keep a healthy balance where you are primarily perceived to be providing good value, then you're going to be good, okay? And actually, I started this podcast saying the bitter truth or the ugly truth behind these concepts. One is that, as I just said, they're not mutually exclusive. So sales and marketing are, of course, not mutually exclusive. That's obvious. But it's the one thing is that this is not a binary thing. So it's not like you can't have a strong sales department doing lots of outbound and even cold outbound while having a value-driving marketing team, which has a big enough emphasis in your strategy. The other thing is that I actually don't like the name so much, okay? And I ended up using these names because the first time I posted about it and the second time I posted about it, people just went bonkers. And I thought, okay, this sales-led versus marketing-led thing is resonating with everybody. So why change the name if it works? But actually, sales-led should be transaction-focused or transaction-oriented. And marketing-led should be value-driven or value-oriented. So that would be a much more precise way to say it. I might just change the name later on because, as I said, it's more precise. And it's not about one department or the other leading go-to-market. It's about, is it value-driven or transaction-driven? And with that, we have arrived at the school with my son. So I'm going to drop him off right now. So quite a few companies can embrace the concept of having an actual revenue department, okay? And by revenue, what was originally meant is all the departments who are responsible for bringing in money okay? And that would be sales primarily, marketing, customer success, and in a way, even possibly product, some operations. And then, it would stop right there, because if you get everybody in a department, then you no longer have a department. So there's no point in trying to get too many people in there. But, okay, sales, marketing, and customer success primarily. Okay, so they would be the classical revenue department folks. Now, the problem, and this might be present at your company. Oh, by the way, the revenue department, especially with service companies, it runs by different names. It can be, so if you have a commercial director who oversees sales and marketing and whatnot, and usually marketing would report to that commercial director, then it's the same thing. It's just called by different names, and it does have a slightly different function, but let's not get into that right now, okay, with service companies. But the point is that more often than not, the revenue or commercial department or leader just ends up doing sales. And so revenue becomes a synonym for sales. And marketing is not really considered to be at the revenue table. And part of that is marketing's fault. Because if marketing cannot prove that it's able to speak the language of money, which is the case in many B2B companies, then they're just gonna lose their place at the money table, which isn't good. So the way to get around that is to have marketing, sales, and customer success be able to translate everything that they do, or most everything that they do, to money language, to dollars, to revenue, to pipeline, okay? Now, there might be a big debate saying, okay, well, if I just, sponsor an event, then it's never going to correlate to money or translate into money, and that's fine. So you don't have to have every single thing translated into revenue. So you need to be aware of the fact that just some things cannot be, but the majority of what you're doing, or a great chunk of what the customer success and marketing department is doing, should come down to how that helps fill pipeline, or how that helps contribute to revenue. Okay? If you don't have that, then you don't have a common language, and then you're not going to have a functioning revenue department. Or you might, but it's just going to be all over the place, and alignment is never going to happen. Okay? Because for alignment to happen, you need to have a common denominator, and that common denominator is revenue right now in B2B, okay? And by revenue, I also mean pipeline. So if whatever stages you have in your pipeline, let's say NQL, if you define that correctly, or SQL or SQA or whatever not. So if you're able to translate marketing's deeds and work into those metrics and dimensions, then that's going to work. If not, then it's not. And more often than not, with companies who have less mature GTM cultures and marketing cultures, where marketing plays just an order taker role, they're the arts and crafts department. They might do SEO, but all they do is sponsor events. If that's all that marketing does, then you're right, it is quite hard to translate that into revenue terms. So if marketing is able to get on with the meaningful stuff, which is creating demand, which is running events with intention, and doing a lot of things with intent of building pipeline way at the top of the funnel, as well as at the back end of the funnel with existing customers to help upsell them, as well as in between the two, then you have a good thing going, and you're going to be able to align the departments, and revenue is going to have meaning finally, and it's not just going to mean sales. Okay, I'm out.